Do a impromptu, I guess, live stream discussing all things wildcard. There's a specific reason why myself and Ray are doing this, because anybody that is a Patreon member will be aware of an hour and a half discussion me and Ray had, basically talking about the wildcard. And I said to Ray afterwards, I'm like, why aren't we doing this on a live stream? We should have done this as a live stream, because I think it would be more beneficial to the channel from a selfish point of view. So, good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Steve-O. How are you?
I'm all good. I've got an hour before work, so we've got a quick. I say rush through it. We're gonna have an hour of discussion about all this, because me and you have been chatting since that Patreon podcast regarding the factors of having Salah, having no Salah, having Haaland, having no Haaland, or having both. Essentially, is this now? In my specific team, which you saw the other day, within reason, we were both in agreement that we're happy with the picks that I've gone with. There's just the odd one here or there you weren't particularly happy with. Mm-hmm. The wild card that I kind of want to do, I'll be showing people in a minute. But I'm going to put up on screen now my team, which is the wild card team right now. And basically we've got Verbruggen in goal, Lewis, Digne, Trent, Rodgers, Diaz, Salah, Semenyo, Havertz, Pedro, and Haaland. And then on the sub bench we have got Flecken, because it's going to be that rotation pairing of Flecken and Verbruggen, and Burmo, Robinson, and Greaves of Ipswich. So my concerns with this specific team, I say concerns, players that I'm really not particularly interested in, specifically for the next 3 game weeks. And I must make this clear. This is for this wild card is essentially, before I get Haaland back, is for the next 3 game weeks. So game weeks 4, 5, and 6. I don't want this team. I want the majority of it. I'm not going to lie. The majority of this team is going to be staying as it is. The team that I want, for myself personally, is going to be the one that I'm putting up on screen now, Ray, which is going to be no Haaland whatsoever. It's going to have 0 Haaland, but what it will have is Palmer, Watkins, and Robertson instead. So I'm going to put that up on screen now. There we are. All in its glory. I wonder if that's going to become even better for the audience. Yep, there it is. So, essentially, instead of Haaland, someone else who I've completely forgotten about, Diaz and Digne, I've got Robertson, Palmer, and Watkins for the next 3 game weeks. Those specific fixtures for anybody listening on audio. In fact, Ray, you could probably tell me, because I haven't even got the FPL site up on my screen, would you believe? But certainly I do know that the fixtures for Aston Villa are very, very good. I know that the going against Palmer is something which I think I'm going to potentially regret, because I think Palmer is fixture proof. And double Liverpool defence, I think, for these fixtures that they've got upcoming, Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, Wolves, Crystal Palace, in my opinion, I think they're gold dust. And with Man City's fixtures of Brentford, Arsenal, Newcastle for these next 3, I personally think, from a team standpoint, I'll do better with this team with Watkins, Palmer, and Robertson over what you're going to be suggesting, which is Haaland in this team, and then obviously that comes at a detriment to X, Y, and Z players. So do you want to just talk us through your thought processes regarding having Haaland in the team?
Yeah, I think a lot covers the week against the game against Brentford, where he'll be the most captain player, and I fully expect him to at least get 1 return. So I can see your thinking in regards to not having him, but I just feel like, Haaland's EO will be so unreal, probably 160, 170%, that any return that he does get is probably going to plummet you quite a bit. And at the moment, the ranks are pretty close. and I don't feel like it's worth not having him at all, actually, for your short-term game. Because what could happen, not necessarily with you, is that I think a lot of people hit the wildcard button because they didn't have Haaland. So, you're taking him out now to put him back in, meaning that you're kind of coining in transfers. And if you have an injury here or there might be a little bit of a delay to bring Haaland in, or you might have to take some hits. So personally, I think you could still, and I'm sure we'll go through it because I sent you a couple of drafts, but I think having Haaland in, you can still create an excellent squad going forward where you have him and Salah, but I know you're specifically thinking Haaland. So to be honest with you, Steve, I think I said to you is that even though he's not the best captain for the next 3 game weeks, if you just build it all as 3 games, but I still expect him to get a minimum of 2 goals. And if he gets a minimum of 2 goals, then people are obviously going to captain him against Brentford, and I wouldn't be surprised if they captain him against Newcastle, even though I did say to you the other day, I think Newcastle are more defensive again. I'm unsure it's worth the risk, and that's the word really. I think it's risky to not have him. So, yeah, that's kind of my assessment. What are your thoughts?
The thing is, I look at the overall picture, to be honest with you, regarding the probability of returns from Haaland, Diaz, the likes of Digne, versus the very, very, very high potential of Watkins, Palmer and Robertson. So with Liverpool, for instance, the way they are playing at the moment, they don't look like they're going to concede a goal forever. Not literally, but you know what I mean. Right. It'll probably be ironic now that they're going to concede to a team in Nottingham Forest who never create a goal scoring opportunity whatsoever. But the 2 Liverpool fixtures upcoming at home with Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth, bearing in mind these are coming in after international fixtures, and reading a couple of X accounts which I respect a lot in Andy Mine and this guy called FPL Olympian, they make some excellent points regarding going no Haaland, certainly for the next 3 game weeks. Mainly because of the opposition. But there are other circumstances surrounding some of the international players which are a bit concerning regarding whether they start or not. So Diaz is a prime example of somebody who, with the Champions League upcoming in that as well, there's a possibility that he may not start the game against Nottingham Forest. We know Haaland's going to be starting every single game. I know he's not a rotation risk whatsoever. But the upside to not owning Haaland in these 3 fixtures is that with the likes of Ollie Watkins, who, yeah, as I can see, I know there's people in the chat saying here about is Watkins a wait and see, but I find that the 3 fixtures for Watkins outweighs Haaland. So Everton, Wolves, Ipswich. Aston Villa have a very, very, very good chance of winning these next 3 quite comfortably. You then have Chelsea with Bournemouth, West Ham, admittedly both away, and then Brighton at home. Chelsea are scoring goals for fun. In fact, Triggerlips was making a point about the fact that Chelsea are one of the highest, since the turn of the year, they're one of the highest scoring teams in the Premier League. And then you've got, like I said, with Liverpool, the way they're defending at the moment and performing really, really well. They've got 3 fixtures which are against 3 teams which don't score that many goals. And I think that they should be keeping 2 clean sheets in the next 3, in my opinion. Whereas, like I said, with Diaz potentially being a rotation risk over the next 3 or 4 fixtures, with the competition from the likes of Gakpo as an example, just as a simple example, and there's other players as well that can be coming in. With Man City, regarding captaincy, you are right. Like, Haaland is going to be the most captain player against Brentford. I'm not going to sit and pretend he's not. But Fulham, Liverpool's history against Nottingham Forest at home is just incredible. Man City's history against Brentford, to be completely frank, is shit. Mm-hmm. Their history against Arsenal over the last few fixtures has been terrible. Newcastle, it's not really been that great. In fact, I did a tiny bit of research and just going on literally the last 2 fixtures, and I don't mean Premier League, I just mean all fixtures in general. Haaland's record against Brentford, Arsenal and Newcastle isn't that great. Not that great at all. Against Brentford, not too bad, but against Arsenal and Newcastle in the last 2 fixtures, again, not necessarily Premier League, but he started them both and he hasn't scored. He's not done well at all. And even though your argument for the fact that Haaland's ownership and effective ownership and all that is going to be skyrocketing, you are completely right. This is over the next 3 game weeks, Ray.
Sure.
I'll have Salah as captain versus Nottingham Forest, against Bournemouth, and then there's a question mark regarding who to captain in game week 6 when it comes to whether it could be Salah away at Wolves, it could be potentially Watkins away at Ipswich, it could even be
Brighton.
Palmer in a high scoring game against Brighton. And when game week 7 comes around, it's simple, Ray. I get rid of Haaland. See you later, mate. He's gone. And then there's
No.
I bring back back Haaland in game week 7. Easy. I can do it. I can do it with no price worries whatsoever. I can then potentially then get rid of Palmer, and then I can bring in another possibility of a premium asset in, for argument's sake. Even if it could even be Liverpool, it could even be Salah in bringing in Saka or something by attacking the Arsenal fixtures from game week 7, where it's Southampton at home, Bournemouth away, and then onto a couple of difficult fixtures in Liverpool at home and then Newcastle away. But to be honest with you, again, I think Arsenal, like Man City, like Liverpool, ironically, are actually all 3 of them are fixture proof. So yeah, let's just see a couple of comments here. Andrew Griffiths saying Diaz and Jota won't play Bournemouth. I want to wildcard Dom Judy saying, but I don't think we have enough information on how things will be in the next couple of weeks. Well, that's why you hit the wildcard. You just bring in a team of players that you really, really want, and then whatever information comes out. But to be honest with you, I can't see anything changing in the next. It's not even 2 weeks. It's what, Ray? We've got just over a week.
Yeah.
It's Thursday today, and then we've got the internationals on Saturday and Tuesday and Wednesday, and then it's just back to reality. So I don't have the problem with the information we've got. The information we've got at the moment are the fact that Arsenal are doing really, really well at the moment. Aston Villa are just plugging along with what they do. The only downside to Aston Villa is that Watkins isn't particularly performing at the moment. The likes of Chelsea, they're just sporadic at the moment, but they're scoring goals for fun. Fulham, I think, have disappointed me personally. You then have the teams that were promoted are all doing what we expected, which is basically shit. Liverpool and Man City are just plodding along as expected. In fact, I'd argue that Man City, specifically Haaland, is doing a hell of a lot better than anybody even expected. And I would argue that that's the same with Salah as well. Man United, well, they're an absolute sack of shit. Spurs, I think Spurs are the team that people need to be kind of like wanting to be reassessing. And yeah, I think for me, the team that I've got here with Watkins, Palmer and Robertson has got a better balance, in my opinion, than with the team where I've got on screen now with Haaland and Diaz. I've got the 2 premium defenders, and I mean even then Robertson could turn into a Gabriel Saliba. You then have which is similar pricing anyway. Diaz becomes a player in which is a guaranteed starter for Chelsea no matter what, and in a Chelsea team that scores goals. And then Watkins, he's got the fixtures, Ray. He's got the fixtures.
Yeah, so I think from a non-Haaland perspective, I think it's a really, really, really good squad. And, I think, again, with the drafts I've sent you, one with a 3-mium and one with a 2-mium, however you want to say it, is you want options on the squad, You don't want everything on the 11, especially on a wildcard. And I think what you've done is you've built a really well-rounded squad to take you through the next 3 game weeks. So there's an argument on the side of not going Haaland from what you're saying, absolutely, and it does make sense. So, I'm not going to just stand on my side and say, no, you got to have Haaland. I believe you must have Haaland. But if you're not going to have it, I can understand your perspective. However, Haaland scored 7 goals in 3 matches. It's absolutely unbelievable. And you wouldn't put it past him getting another hat-trick against Brentford. I know what you're saying about the history, absolutely. But he looks really different. Like, he really does look fresh. He looks at it, and he's just getting better. He's only 22, 23 years old. It's unbelievable what Haaland's doing. It's just unbelievable. So I just am concerned for you that if and when he does get that haul over the next 3 weeks, hey, it could be against Arsenal. Who knows? The way he's playing and the way Man City are playing. I don't believe so, obviously, but against Newcastle, it could potentially happen. Is that...
But what...
I am concerned that you're facing against a mountain, and you're really hoping your other players that you haven't captained, okay, you're going to captain Salah, but the other players you haven't captained need to somehow cover those Haaland points, and I'm unsure how worth it is, but go ahead.
So you don't, thinking logically, based on the fact that what we've seen from the premium assets, including Saka, so Saka, Palmer, Salah. In fact, if you look at it here,
there's so many of them.
Well, this is the point. This is why it's so ridiculous. Is that work? So the top scoring players so far this season in FPL: Salah, premium; Palmer, premium; Saka, premium. So 3 of the top 4 are premium based players within the game itself. You then have Diaz, who plays for a premium team in Liverpool. You then have Son, who plays for a premium team. Medawaki, whatever you may think, plays for Chelsea at the end of the day. The only anomaly here is Mbeumo. However, the information that we've had over the few years that we've seen Brentford without Tony is that Mbeumo steps up and does really, really well.
Yeah.
Some of the fixtures that Mbeumo's had, are we surprised that he's there in the top 5? No, not particularly. And I think that certainly moving forward with, like I said, with these fixtures, because what I was going to say is, do you seriously think that, for argument's sake, with in fact, let's just bring up one of your teams that you sent me.
Perfect.
So we'll go with the 3-mium, as you've called it. So we'll go with the 3-mium. So the 3-mium you sent me was as follows. You had Salah, Palmer and Haaland. So it was Verbruggen in goal, Konza, Trent, Dan. Well, I'm telling you now, I'm not having Dan Burn. I'm not having Newcastle in my team, so we can clear off. Salah, Palmer, Semenyo, Rogers. Brilliant. In fact, this I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's not. This team is beautiful. It's pretty much exactly the same team as what I've got. The only difference is it's just the bench. And then you've got Pedro, Haaland, and Havertz. When I saw this team this morning, barring Dan Burn, which made me sick in my mouth. I really like it because we've then got Robinson. Yeah, Robinson. Fast can be Greaves. I'm not having any Leicester in my team. Winks, yeah, he can continue as he is. And then Fabianski, who looks like he could be. The only downside to this team, of course, is that we're only talking, and there's nothing wrong with this, one goalkeeper. And that goalkeeper being, I think, I probably would go down the route of having the Brighton asset because of the simple fact that they have got the better fixtures over the next 2 for definite. But Flecken seems to be a saves points magnet. We don't know. Now Verbruggen's been told that he's first choice. We don't know how he's going to perform, but whatever. At the end of the day, he's playing for Brighton. He's going to do well no matter what, the same as Brentford. I put Brighton and Brentford in the same category teams, to be honest with you. I don't mean in the way they play. I just mean they're going to be there or thereabouts in the same positions in the league. Brighton's opening next few fixtures: Ipswich, Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, Tottenham, Newcastle, Wolves, Liverpool. They're not that particularly great, whereas with Brentford, they've got Man City, Tottenham, West Ham, Wolves, Man United, Ipswich, Fulham. I'd personally argue Flecken has got the better opponents, hence why I like the Brighton-Brentford rotation. I think that's not quite a necessity for me, but I do like the fact that I would have the option to have, I've got Verbruggen at home to Ipswich. I've then got Verbruggen at home to their next opponents I've completely forgotten, Nottingham Forest. And then I can then jump on to Brentford, where they've got West Ham, Wolves, Man United. And then after the Man United game, I can then go on to Verbruggen with Wolves. But we're literally splitting hairs with that. But that team there, Ray, do you want to just talk us through your reasonings behind? I get the whole Palmer and all the premiums, but Dan Burn, was it just you putting a 4.5 defender in there for the sake of it?
Yeah, I mean, he could easily be Dunk and Verbruggen be Flecken, isn't it? I mean, it's price point. It's more of a price point team, maybe. I mean, Burn is there, like you said, for the sake of it. But I think so on paper, I absolutely adore the 11. In total, I think I did a solid job fitting all the kind of viable and attractive assets into the team. The problem is that bench is really crap because you're going to have Winks that you're never really going to play. Fass, or that basically the 4 million defender, you're going to be relying on at some point. And there are going to be a lot of instances where it's probably going to be a 4-4-2 formation simply because of the fixtures with your other players. Like, for example, Havertz away at Man City, I don't like the game. And even Semenyo away to Liverpool, okay, now he could actually do something because I don't think Liverpool are as defensively solid as you do. But you're going to be relying too much on these budget-enabling players every single week to compensate having Haaland, Palmer, Salah, and Trent. So,
are you referring to this team?
Yeah, the one I've built, the 3 million team. The other team I definitely want us to go through as well is that this was more of, you were telling me that Palmer's a player you do worry not having, and I'm like, okay, well, let me play around and see if I can fit something in. But you're relying on a player like Rodgers, who's unproven. Semenyo, we still got to wait a bit longer how much he'll be that talisman that the Solanke is there, not there anymore. Every week, like Havertz is not a consistently proven FPL asset. João Pedro, we don't know what next week will look like.
But surely, as an Arsenal fan, you must agree that he's been performing very well for you, and he's clearly the first.
Brilliantly, but against Spurs, I expect him to play in midfield.
Who would be the front three then?
I think it will be Sterling, Saka, and Trossard.
I think you're mad, Ram. Sorry, I cannot see Arteta dropping Havertz back in midfield. I know, yeah. Then again, you've got no Declan Rice, have you?
Yeah, we don't have Rice and Marino, and I don't think he'll play Partey and Jorginho. We'll get outrun. Havertz is in there to be an engine. Honestly.
Sterling? I think there's more chance of Martinelli being played through the middle alongside Trossard and Saka than Sterling being thrown in.
Okay.
Personally, I mean, I don't know anything, but
No, you do. No, you make a compelling point. But okay, but I think Havertz will play in midfield. That's
Okay.
my prediction. However, I'd still have him in the team. Like he'd be the Arsenal asset I go for. So because you're quite right, he's been fantastic as I kind of expected him to be actually. So, but again, is a lot of these players are kind of like João Pedro for Brighton. Again, I think I've said this a lot of times. Apart from Matoma and Matoma and Dunk, I think they're the only two nailed players in the whole team at the moment, Steve-O. Enjoy João Pedro as much as we can, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's randomly benched. If he's benched against Ipswich or Forest with this squad, the draft I've given you, you're relying on a Harry Winks or your Ipswich defender. Let's just say John.
Well,
someone else. So.
This is why I love my team regarding the non-Haaland. Now, admittedly, we're talking about a team with Haaland, but the non-Haaland draft. I'm not relying on these players, Ray. I'm relying on, for instance, if and when Mbeumo coming off the bench if Pedro doesn't play a minute against Ipswich. If I feel that... So obviously Pedro was called up to Brazil at some point yesterday.
Yeah, and he's back quite late. Exactly.
Yeah, so we're going to get news no matter what if Pedro's going to be starting. And the Brighton manager has come out and basically said words to the effect of Pedro's amazing for my team and the way we play, Pedro is the main man. And that breeds confidence, but like you've just said, he comes back late from Brazil. If, for argument's sake, he doesn't feel like he's up to it, I can easily play Mbeumo. In this threemium, well, I call it a fourmium because you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold in there. I'm then going, do I play I'd probably play Robinson. Let's just say Pedro was ruled out. It'd be like, I'd play Robinson ahead of Pedro, for instance. And like you say, with this specific team, it's too heavily reliant on your cheapy players. Plus in midfield, like you quite rightly say, even though in my Watkins team I've still got Semenyo and Rodgers, I could easily, if I really want to, play Mbeumo ahead of Rodgers. But this is the kind of game where you're thinking, no, Steve-O, you want to be at least playing Rodgers in that one fixture at home to Everton. At least give him that opportunity. But your next team that you brought up, which is only the threemium at this point, Haaland, Salah and Trent, it's a lot more balanced.
By far.
Yeah, by far. It's a lot more balanced by far. And it is as follows. We're going with Verbruggen in goal again. Konsa, Trent, Robinson. There's a theme here. Salah, Matoma, Semenyo, Rodgers, Nicholas Jackson, Haaland, Havertz, and then Fabianski. Adams. Who is Adams?
It's Adama Traore, Fulham.
Oh, Adama Traore. Right, okay. Theis and Poro.
And 0.5 in the bank, just thought I'd say that.
And 0.5 in the bank as well. Now, I personally hate leaving premium team defenders on the bench. I'd be playing Poro no matter what.
Okay.
I don't care. I'd be playing him over Robinson. I'm telling you that for free. Because I hate benching premium team defenders. But this team here, I was going to say Jace then. This team here, Ray, is, like you say, a lot more well balanced. Like you said, you've got 0.5 in the bank, which for me, I'd upgrade Fabianski to Flecken. That's what I would do. I just want to use all my money. And it means really, at this point, your team is now absolutely perfect. In fact, so if that's 0.5, because Traore's 5 million, is that right?
Yeah, I think he's incredible value at 5 million.
So 5 million there. We then, in this team here, I would upgrade Theis to, well, not even upgrade, I'd just drop him down to Greaves, so that gives us 0.6 Ray in the bank. Think about that.
Come on.
We've got the Aston Villa coverage in Konsa defence and Rodgers in attack. Trent who I love. Robinson, brilliant player for Fulham, very, very attacking, but he'd be replaced with Porro, so it doesn't really matter. We still got Robinson in the team. Salah, Mitoma's the possible one where he may not even be able to start again against Ipswich because of the fact he's on international duty playing with Japan. There's a small possibility that the manager may come out and say, sorry, he's not ready for this game. Possibility. You've then got the coverage in Chelsea with Nicholas Jackson, who's got he's got competition, but he looks like he's going to be the mainstay up top for now. He's done nothing wrong, so he's the mainstay. This team here, I must admit, Ray, I really like. Do you want to go through your thoughts with this particular team and why you went with it?
Yeah, so I created multiple drafts for yourself, but other people as well. I was saying to you that, I still get DMs, which is great. So I'm still involved in a consultancy role. I haven't used the word today. And I just like this because every week there's a balance. Every week there are options. Maybe the only weak one is Greaves, but everyone else could play every single week. And you're quite right. If Mitoma comes back from Japan a day before and you're a bit like, I don't know if I want to play him. Okay, I'll put in Adama Traore. Havertz away to Man City. Bad game on paper. You might think, you know what? I'll bench him. I'll play Adama Traore. I'll play Pedro. I'll play Robinson. I'll go 4-4-2. I think there's so much movement that you have in this team. And I think another key point, which I didn't really mention before, is you've got the price points in pretty much every position, isn't it? You've got the most expensive midfielder, you've got the most expensive striker. And I look at a Jackson and I think Jackson is not a season keeper. Jackson is I hope he plays these next 3 or 4 games and then assess it from there. I look at him, he's got Bournemouth, West Ham, Brighton and Forest in his next 4 games. I would be very surprised if he doesn't start at least 3 of those because, like I said in the last stream, he's the only actual target man in essence, in air quotes. I use that very loosely, that term, that Chelsea have. And a lot of the times in the 3 games that they played is that Jackson does find himself, he's got fantastic movement for a front man. Like he's in great positions. He's just not a great finisher. However, I still expect him to get a couple of goals over the next 2-3 games. And I also thought to myself, why I think this draft is so much better than the other one I sent you is because it's a lot of money to have Palmer and you're not going to captain him. And I'm just thinking, look, get an asset who at the moment is playing, who's in form, who seems to be trusted, even from last season as well. Nico Jackson started most of the games. Is that I just feel like that's probably the question mark in this team. The reason I went with Mitoma and not Pedro is because I didn't know which Chelsea asset to bring in. I think what your current team lacks is you don't have a Chelsea player. And I feel that you need to have an attacker. And the only other player I can think of apart from Palmer is Jackson Stevo. Now, he could be... look, I won't be surprised. Look, Maresca's got 48 players. I wouldn't be surprised that Nico Jackson has a crap game against Bournemouth. A game I don't think they'll win, by the way. He could have a crap game against Bournemouth, and it's like, you know what? Against West Ham, I'll play João Felix. Yeah, it can absolutely happen. But with the way he's playing and his XG is, I just think it's a worthwhile punt. So yeah, those are my thoughts. In regards to the rest of the team, quite right, you can make Fabianski into Flecken, as you rightly said. Robinson could be Dunk if you want triple Brighton, excuse me. But I think the rest of it is, pretty well balanced. I like the Porro shout because I think I said to you the other day, but very briefly, is even though Spurs were just a pile of crap against Newcastle, Pedro could have got assists. They hit the bar. His average position is ridiculous. He plays as a winger, Stevo. And if you want Tottenham coverage, which I actually advocate having Spurs coverage, is, against Arsenal, they'll create opportunities the way they play. Against Brentford, against Man United, then, they got Brighton and West Ham. These are good fixtures for Porro, in my opinion, from an offensive point of view. That, hey, why not tap into it if you've got the budget? So, yeah.
Dom Duge was saying, do you have full faith in Palmer doing well, Stevo? Because that premium has taken a ton of your budget that could be spent improving players like Semenyo and getting Eze. I have a lot of faith in Palmer. What does he need to prove? What did he do last season? He scored God knows how many goals, got how many assists, and now he's surrounded by even better players. Is pretty much going to be the key component to Chelsea this year.
Definitely.
I think that he's, for me, I just want him. And that's just him as a man. So I really like Palmer. I think he's absolutely brilliant. But Ray's case regarding Nico Jackson, just to get that Chelsea coverage and the fact that I won't be captaining Palmer, even though I expect Palmer to outscore Jackson. That's how I see it, Ray.
Of course.
Just players are going to be outscoring one another rather than worrying about the captaincy. But like you say, it negates away from other players in your team that are better than, say, the likes of Semenyo. Alexander Bryan saying, Trent is a no-go for me. Look at his performance so far. You're only playing 7 million for clean sheets for a premium defender where you're expecting to get attacking returns. Again, based on history, Trent Alexander-Arnold is an individual who will, over the next few game weeks, score a double-digit haul. It's there. It's coming. And I mean, you've got him in your Telegraph game, haven't you, Ray?
Who's that? Sorry,
Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah, absolutely. I think personally, Alexander, that a haul is imminent because he is picking up great positions. He got his goal the other day, rightfully offside, but obviously it was gutting. And I just feel with those fixtures against Forest and Bournemouth, I think they're just going to be camped in the half, and Trent's average position is going to be insane. And I think it's imminent he'll get a return in the next 2 games. I look at Trent and think you need to have him in your wild draft. I think you need to have him in your team. And yeah, quite rightfully so. In Telegraph, Steve-O, I am looking to bring in Salah, but it won't be at the sacrifice of Trent. I think Trent over the next 5 matches, Forest, Bournemouth, Wolves, Palace, Chelsea, I can see 2-3 attacking returns, honestly.
Dom saying is, he's making a statement. Raya, essential on a wild card. Your goalkeeper, Ray? Literally your goalkeeper for Arsenal? What do you think on Raya?
I think no. Those fixtures are tough. I'd rather go for a defender and then bench him for the next 2. I know you don't like that, but I'd rather go for a premium defender. But I'd rather go for a Saliba, bench him, and then in game week 6, you got a real nice run of 3 fixtures. Now, about Arsenal quickly, is you can't really ignore that despite the fact that from game week 6 to 8, we got nice fixtures, we then got Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea away. So I don't think there's a priority to bring in Arsenal defensive assets. But I never considered an Arsenal defender in any of the drafts that I made for you, Steve-O. Like, never. I just thought Havertz is enough.
There's a lot of people watching right now. Make sure you are hitting the like button. And of course, if you are brand new around here and you're enjoying the content myself, Jason, and Ray bring you, please make sure you are subscribing to the channel. So, involving the chat here, let's get a poll. Not even a poll. A live one here. Right now, chat, this team in front of you is the one that I'm feeling I'm probably going to end up going with on wildcard. We've got the rotation around Flecken and Verbruggen. It'll be Robertson, Trent, along with whoever's got the better fixture out of Lewis and Robinson. A midfield 4 of Palmer, Salah and Burmo, and then one of Semenyo or Rodgers. And then a front 3 of Havertz, Pedro and Watkins. This is for 3 game weeks only. I should clarify this is for 3 game weeks only. So bearing in mind that Haaland's fixtures aren't that great, this is for 3 game weeks only. So it'll be Robertson, Trent, Lewis, for argument's sake, and Burmo, Palmer, Salah, Semenyo, Havertz, Pedro and Watkins. What do you think on this 3 game week team, chat? What do you think on this 3 game week team? I'm very interested to know what this is, what people think about now, because I like this team, Ray. It's got a lot of balance to it, I find that it's got the coverage for all the big hitters, especially with Man City's tough fixtures. I think the Newcastle game is going to be really difficult for them. I expect them to win. I think Newcastle will have turned it around by then. But you are right; they are a lot more defensive than what they should be. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the chat say. Dale saying, "I want to stay above you. You're only above me by a couple of points, Dale, and you've already used triple captaincy as well. So it's not. it's not particularly great." Andrew Griffiths saying this is a 7 out of 10. That's good to hear. No one else can be bothered to rate it, Ray. So we'll move on to yours. See if people can be bothered to rate your one. So then we move on to the team which hasn't got much balance at all regarding the subs bench, but certainly has got a good team on paper. So Verbruggen in goal, Konza, Trent, Dan Burn. But this is more of a wild card for beyond 3 game weeks. Salah, Palmer, Semenya, Rodgers, Pedro, Haaland, Havertz, and then just not necessarily bench fodder, but certainly players in. And this is 0 in the bank, I'm assuming, Ray.
Yeah, this is. I don't actually like this draft. I just want to show you it can be done, but it's just you're looking, you're barrel scraping. I mean, the bench is awful. Let's be honest, it's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, like I say, I would. This is just me personally. I would turn Dan Burn into Lewis Dunk.
Sure,
that's what I would do. I'd happily have double Brighton defence, especially over these next couple of fixtures. That face will become Greaves, so we save 0.1 in the bank, or 0.1, and it means then that we would have some, because Ipswich's fixtures do turn. Well, they're turning pretty much now. They got Brighton, Southampton away, Aston Villa at home, not great, but then West Ham away, horrible. But then Everton at home, Brentford away, Leicester at home. So they got a few good fixtures. There's a small possibility that we could be rotating with Dunk. Yes, in fact, there we are. You see, when Brighton are away at Newcastle, I could have Greaves at home to Everton, and then when Brighton are away at Liverpool, I could have Greaves at home to Leicester, for instance. And then you got Wolves at home for Brighton, while Ipswich are away at Brentford. So there's a bit of an okay pairing there between them two, but certainly I don't want to go anywhere near Newcastle whatsoever. And then finally, the one that we're both kind of in agreement, which is actually really, really nice, is the 3-4-3, the more balanced squad. Verbruggen, Konza, Trent, Robinson, Salah, Matoma, Semenya, Rodgers, Jackson, Haaland, Havertz, and then on the bench, Fabianski, who can be turned into Flecken, Traore.
Please see that. Could you bring it on screen?
It is on screen. Greaves, that'll be, and then Poro will be that particular player as well. So this is the team here, which I think is a lot more well balanced. But again, this is more for moving forward into the season rather than my plan of having what would it be by game week 7? It'd be 2 free transfers, Ray, or 3 for me. It'd be 2, wouldn't it?
Be 2, yeah. When you wildcard, does it roll a transfer now? I don't know because
it does, yeah. But I've got none anyway, okay. So it doesn't really matter. So it'd be 2 free transfers in game week 7, where, like I say, those particular individuals of Watkins will turn straight back into Haaland. That'll be done. That's really easy. And then I'll have, so if I do it on my screen here, once it all actually loads up. So if I put in place the players which I had for my 3-4-3 with Palmer and Watkins in. So yeah, I would have, let's just say, gets to game week 7. Right then, let's bring back Haaland. He'll probably be 15.3, which is just, when you think about it, it's just crazy. But he'll be 15.3, but either way, there he is there. Haaland is there. And then I'll have to either get rid of Salah or Palmer. And I'd have 6.1 in the bank. But there could be easy ways to downgrade another player, maybe even in Liverpool. Getting rid of Robertson. And then I've got, at that point, 12.1 in the bank. And yeah, we can certainly, by that point, play around with it. It may even be that Salah could be the one that could go. Still keep Palmer.
We haven't played around with no Salah, either of us. So maybe that's kind of like the next conversation.
We haven't. You are right. But getting rid of Salah in game week 7, where he's fixtures, even though, again, he is fixture proof. Getting rid of Salah, it is a case of, okay, it's Crystal Palace away, Chelsea at home, Arsenal away, Brighton at home. Nothing to be scared of there, whereas Arsenal, ironically, they'll have Southampton, Bournemouth, then Liverpool and Newcastle, and I'd be probably bringing in. Oh, but then again, like you said, then Arsenal have got Chelsea, then it's Nottingham Forest at home. They've got 3 really horrible fixtures in those between game weeks 9 and 11. So it's certainly something to think about, Ray, as we approach game week 7. We will have a lot more supposed data by this point. Hopefully Haaland will do absolutely nothing. I mean, Philippe saying, without Haaland you get Salah, Palmer, Saka, Eze, 2 premium defenders and 2 decent strikers. And this is what we've been discussing here, is that's what my team is up on the screen. Saying. Yeah, this is what my team is here, where you've got Watkins for his next 3 fixtures. That's why I'm almost... Because, Ray, do you want to tell the audience something that I've asked you to do, but you said you won't do? So I asked you to do what regarding a team?
Yeah, funny enough, it was kind of my idea almost in a voice note, and then I kind of retracted. So I was actually thinking of not necessarily making a team via the app, but using my wildcard, getting on an Excel and basically facing Steve-O. And Steve-O kind of then said, why don't you just make a team and, we'll
put him in the game week 4 trophy
league. Put him in the game week 4 trophy league and go forward. And I came back and I said, look, I'm kind of going against my principles of what I said, is that I won't play the game anymore. I love this. I love not advising, but being a sparring partner for you on this and giving my ideas, because it is still enjoyable in regards to planning for someone else. I think of it almost as what I do in my job. And if I can share, is that you didn't. It wasn't patronizing to me, but you said you're proud of me that I've stuck by my guns and gone with my word, and I take that as a huge compliment, because I know what will happen. I play to win, and I think that's very clear. Is when I play something, I don't do it half-ass. And if I suddenly went forward and said, okay, it's my wild card versus your wild card, what's going to happen? We're going to go through the whole season. I'm playing the game bloody again. And, it's something I don't want to do, because I'm enjoying not being part of the game anymore. And also, I've put myself out there, we've done the streams together. It's on my YouTube channel. I say I don't play the game anymore. I don't want to be a liar. So, yeah.
No, I completely respect that. And we got Philippe saying here, why don't you downgrade essentially Watkins for Solanke and then upgrade Semenyo? Well, then you're essentially relying on Rodgers, who isn't proven. Yeah, he's clearly a very, very good player. But the reality is he's done nothing, whereas Watkins, all right, then he's done nothing officially, but we know that he's a top class striker. It's my favourite team I've seen on the stream, which is on screen at the moment. That's with the Watkins one, Ray. And this is my point. I'm more happy using this as my 3 game week wildcard. And this is why I love talking with Ray and having him as the consultant. And yeah, I'm gutted that He doesn't want to supposedly challenge me, shall we say, if we're going to use that terminology, for the Game Week 4 Trophy League. But the reality is that Ray doesn't want to compete against me. But I think personally, Ray, over the next 3 game weeks, this will outscore a Haaland team. I mean, you are going to be keeping... I mean, what will happen is that you're going to... Whichever team you end up thinking is the best one in your opinion. So let's just say, for argument's sake, we both agree that for balance, this 3-4-3 with Nicholas Jackson in is probably the better one. Of all the drafts you sent me, this is probably, in your opinion, the most well-balanced?
With Haaland and Salah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, the question for chat is, let's just say we've got the Verbruggen and Flecken double up. Does the likes of a Konza and Robertson beat Robertson and Lewis? Forget the rotation stuff. We're not looking into rotation. We're just going to assume that Rico Lewis is nailed. Because I've also got the options on the bench with Lewis, where I can get rid of, not necessarily get rid of him per se, but I've got Robinson that can come in for Lewis if and when necessary, and Greaves potentially coming in for Lewis if and when necessary. But we then have Salah versus Salah, Mitoma versus Palmer, and then we then have Mbermo up against one of, well, it's not even up against, it is pretty much Mbermo versus Rodgers, because I'm probably going to be benching Rodgers more ahead of Mbermo, because I've seen enough of Bournemouth, but Bournemouth for me are attacking enough where that Southampton game at home and Leicester away, I know that's not 3 game weeks, but certainly, even though you've got them in your team, could be really, really good. And with Chelsea being at home to Brighton and Nottingham Forest as well, we've got Palmer ahead of Mitoma, who's got Chelsea and then Tottenham, which again could be, it's still profitable. And then you've got Jackson against Pedro, Haaland and Havertz as they are. Because me and you both agree that, to be fair, we're pretty much there or thereabouts with being happy with either team, because the majority of the players that me and you have chosen are virtually the same.
Yeah, I think we said it in the last stream, well, in the Patreon episode, and also when we voice note as well, is that it's about 10, 11 players there, isn't it? It's now the big shout regarding, it's almost a Haaland versus Palmer, but again, it's combinations, isn't it? That with that money you save, you're able to bring in Robertson, for example, so you have double Liverpool defence, and Robertson as well is going to be taking up a lot of areas where I expect him to get a couple of returns. So, attacking returns. There was a comment that was really, it definitely hit home, is that, Semenyo, Rodgers, Mitoma, and Adama Traore, it's kind of, you're relying, he's right, is that you're relying on these guys to actually be able to do something to compensate having Haaland, which is very, very true. But I do feel like that there are going to be players who do, like last season, you get cheapies who hit out and start performing well. And I fully agree with your Semenyo shout that he's got 2 goals and an assist in his 3 games. And without Solanke now, I thought it was going to be Kluivert that steps up. I vividly remember saying that in the preseason streams that we did. But Semenyo could be that guy. And you don't really want to miss out. And I actually really like the fixtures. Apart from Liverpool away, I think Chelsea at home is a great fixture for an attacker. So, but again, there's arguments both ways. But I think one thing we agree with is that Salah has to be in these drafts because, in game week, screw it, even in game week 4, 5, 6, he might be the best captain to go for every single game week.
And again, I keep reiterating this point. My wild card is essentially for the next 3 game weeks, and then it's straight back onto Haaland for Fulham, and then Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth.
Who would you take out, actually? What are the changes you'd make? I didn't.
So it would be Watkins would be going out for Haaland. And then it would be a toss-up between Palmer and Salah. If I get rid of Salah, it means then I can upgrade anywhere up to 10 million or something like that.
Right.
That's the thing. I will have a lot of money in the bank if I get rid of Salah. Still have Palmer. Still have Palmer in my team.
You could put him to Diaz, isn't it? Really? So you still have a Liverpool attacker, but you won't captain him, obviously.
Yeah, and we just or even Jota.
Or Jota.
And but this is exactly the point. This is why it's going to be so crucial over the next few game weeks, where we see where the lay of the land is, so to speak. The lay of the land could be completely different by game week 7, where Haaland continues scoring for fun. But I will maintain that their game against Brentford, what you seriously think Brentford are going to be defensively weak against Man? No, their games against Brentford. We need to be getting out of here, Ray. Just to give you a simple example. So Brentford, when they play Man City, I'm telling you this. When I looked at it the other day, I was like, oh, it's not actually that high scoring. So please load up. The highest scoring game was last season when they beat Brentford away 3-1. Other than that, we've got 1-0, 2-0.
You the boys.
2-1 Brentford win.
Yeah.
1-0 Brentford win. Then the 3-1. Then 1-0. Brentford are no mugs. They're not going to do a Southampton or an Ipswich or a Leicester or a Burnley. I think they're going to do very, very well at containing Man City. And we then move on to Man City when it comes to versus Arsenal. Well, Ray, you can already tell us immediately what were last 2 seasons' results.
Yeah, 0-0 and 1-0.
0-0.
1-0. I don't think Haaland had a shot in either game.
And again, do we really think Arsenal are just going to roll over and have their bellies tickled? No. This is the last several results between Arsenal and Man City, including cup games. So yeah, there's 2 anomalies here, where in the 15th of February 2023 and the 26th of April 2023, Man City won by an aggregate score of 7-2. In between all that, we've got Man City 1, Arsenal 0. Arsenal 1, Man City 1. Arsenal 1, Man City 0. Man City 0. Arsenal 0. And yet, we've got a captain Haaland now. You're bonkers if you seriously think like this. And then Newcastle, once again, the fixtures aren't, or more specifically, the history isn't that bad. It's not the same as Arsenal, but from what I remember looking at the history, yeah, well, we've got a 3-3, and we've got a 2-0, 1-0, 1-0, and then we've got a high scoring 3-2, and then a 2-0. And funny enough, in the 3-2 in the game in the Premier League at Newcastle, this was at Newcastle. Guess what Haaland did in that game? In 3 goals, what did Haaland do?
He did nothing.
He did absolute... Nothing. In fact, to be honest with you, he didn't even play. He didn't actually play that game, would you believe? You couldn't make it up, could you? He didn't actually play in that game. But in the 1-0 victory, where Newcastle beat them, I think in the 2-0, sorry. In the 2-0 in the FA Cup, I don't think Haaland played in that game, or did he? I'm trying to think. I think he did, but he did nothing. And the answer is, he did play and he did nothing. I mean, it's the FA Cup game, and Man City's team was full strength. It was full strength versus Newcastle. So, again, I'm not expecting it to be easy fixtures. And yeah, Ray, I'm really, really tempted. And I probably will do it. Gonna go with this. It's just such a shame that you're not. I know you won't, and I respect it. It's just such a shame that you're not willing to create that FPL team just to put into the trophy league to go against me. That would be really, really fun. Ray, I've got to get out of here. I've got to get to work. So, on that note, everybody, I just want to say thanks everybody for tuning in live. If you are watching on the replay, why not comment below on your favoured wildcard drafts that myself and Ray have come up with. Other than that, if you are brand new around here, make sure you're subscribing and making sure that you are hitting the like button if you've enjoyed the stream or not. Ray, thank you for joining me. Any final thoughts before we go?
Not at all, no. Thank you as always, Steve-O, and thanks everyone in the chat. And please leave your comments about the wild draft. The wild drafts. They are wild drafts, but the wild cards. And perhaps pop yours in the comments as well, and Steve-O and I can have a look at it.
That was fun, Ray.
Thank you, sir.
See you later, everybody.